Hello, everyone. My name is David Su with our guest speaker here, Isa Whalen, who is joining us today. Ms. Whalen is the Executive Director of API Advocates and plays a key role in the Asian American community. Could you just tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved to become the Executive Director of API Advocates?
Yes, Hafaday, David, and thank you, API Youth Rising, for letting me come and join this amazing project. A little bit about myself. My name is Isa Whalen. I use she, her pronouns. I am a proud Filipina and Chamorro from the island of Guam and village of Umatic. I got my undergraduate degree at the University of Washington, studying anthropology, Oceania Pacific Islander studies, diversity studies, and Asian American studies. I went on to go to the East Coast to get my master's in critical ethnic community studies, University of Massachusetts in Boston, coupled with public policy. And then from there, bounced around a number of nonprofits, worked for Washington State, Massachusetts State, and California State, whether that be in the capacity of the API Commission, or the Legislative Caucus. So from there, I have gained a lot of knowledge, experience, really fun times with the community, and find myself returning back to community with API advocates.
Great. And for the viewers who don't know what API Advocates is, can you explain to them what you do at this nonprofit organization?
Yes, absolutely. So API Advocates is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. We are nonpartisan based in Sacramento, California. The mission of the API Advocates is to develop youth and community leaders through legislative internships, advocacy, and coalition building, which I'm super excited to talk about today.
Okay, great. When you were a child, before you even got into college and continued your career journey, did you always imagine yourself going into public service, going into helping out the Asian American community, or what motivated you to go into this field?
Thank you for that question. No. I did not see myself going anywhere near this career realm growing up. Growing up in a Chamorro household where a lot of our culture was deeply rooted in our traditional and indigenous values. Um, Public service, civic engagement, government type of work careers was not really something that we had in communication or something that I would ever dream about. Um, how did I catch myself to be here? I got mad. To be honest with you, I did. And it was around the same time as you, David, where I was finishing up high school and then going into my undergrad at University of Washington in Seattle. I started out as a marine biology major, actually, at that time. I wanted to address climate change and resiliency for Pacifica peoples across Oceania, particularly looking at our coral reefs and the ecosystems that were there. But, and then I had a minor in Asian American studies. And through my first year of undergrad, I found Asian American studies to be more and more interesting. I think in my K through 12 education, I didn't get any education on what it meant to be API in America or be in a diasporic community, have intersectional identities. So University of Washington introduced me to some of the first history lessons or some of the first things I got to learn about other Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander communities as well. And I think with that Asian American studies minor at the time, I was like, this is so awesome. I want more. Why not make this a major? It was something I was very passionate about. They did have that available at University of Washington, so I did change majors and I went down the Asian American studies route. However, I am, as I mentioned before, a Pacifica woman. My family has been born, bred, and raised on the island of Guam. We are Micronesian. And in that curriculum, I didn't see myself reflected. And I think there was one class, and I love sharing this story, where there was seven of us, just seven Pacifica students out of the whole campus who took this Asian American studies class. And I think we were about a month in, and we had asked the professor, oh, like we looked through the curriculum, we've looked through the rubric. Is there anything at all in this upcoming quarter or semester that will include Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander stories? And the short answer was no, there isn't, beyond just treaties that have happened between U.S. relations or militarism that's been on the islands. And so we, us seven specific students there were like, oh, well, we're investing so much into this institution. We really, really want to learn about where we come from, who we are, and how we matter in today's America. And unfortunately, the education at that time wasn't enough. And so we had taken it up to a bunch of professors from around the world, from different islands, from where we've come from, ask aunties, ask uncles. We asked basically our community and families from outside of the institution on what that would look like in terms of education. Um, and then with lots of advocacy and student organizing, collaborating with the elected officials in Washington State, the Office of Diversity and Minority Affairs at University of Washington as well, and very closely with Professor Holly Barker at University of Washington, we were able to pilot the very first minor of Oceania and Pacific Islander Studies. And this was monumental because we got to see ourselves and we got to learn about each other, each other's histories, which gave me a better understanding of my Polynesian, Melanesian brothers and sisters as well. And then a couple years later, my class was the first class to graduate with that OPIS minor, and it is now a standing minor at the University of Washington. So that was kind of like my first dip into advocacy in that realm. I was like, this is an amazing win. I can't wait to tell my younger siblings back home. And it kind of blew my mind because I realized you don't necessarily need to be the president to make change, which I would not have known without this experience. So that kind of lit a fire where it was like, what else can I do? And then I started getting more engaged to nonprofits, volunteering, working with the commission in Washington State for student safety, public safety. Um, and then I decided to extend my education, how it pertains to advocacy and public policy at University of Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's really great. I love how you talked about how there's a big gap within the curriculum from K to 12 with API education. At AAPI Youth Rising, we actually do a lot. So we have this presentation called One Day of AAPI History, where we go into classrooms, we go into lecture halls, and we give this presentation about API history, not only Asian American, but Pacific Islander history as well. So people are more aware of it. So I think it's really, really great that this major is now formed because of your help as well. So that's really, really great. Were there any challenges that you faced going into the steps leading into getting this minor or whatever else that you faced um,
Yeah.
in your journey?
Absolutely. It was not an easy road. I will say that a lot of our students and faculty, professors had to work horizontally with one another, very collaborative in trying to find, are there other professors out there on the islands of Palau that are willing to join us on a Zoom? Because at that time it was the beginning of COVID also. So creating a new minor online for the first time ever, not having um, lectures, articles, or things to go to, we turned to communities back on the island. And it was like, cross your fingers and hope that this community leader back on the island is going to join the Zoom and teach us about weaving, is going to teach us how to carve and fish. He's going to teach us about what it really means to be a wayfinder in Oceania. Those were really big challenges and a leap of faith. And I want to say it took a lot of, again, communication, collaboration, a lot of dreaming of what it would look like. And then translating that beyond my undergrad and graduate, going into just I guess the broader ANHPI community is a challenge itself, because it is a very large acronym that encompasses hundreds of thousands ethnic groups, sub-ethnic groups across the nation, and we all have multiracial intersectional identities as well. So one of the challenges that I've seen, no matter which space that I am in, is how can we really address these unique, diversely unique communities while underneath this large umbrella term. So that's been a challenge both in advocacy and policy and community service, trying to get people on board and make a unified front. I'd say that would be the largest challenge I've faced.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. understand how important it is to all be working together. One great force is better than just one singular person working alone. And I see that your action that you've done led up to huge successes. Is there anything that you've done more recently to help like make sure that education for AAPI communities are within like curriculum? Because Asian American Pacific Islander history is part of is a part of American history.
Ooh, yes. So, while I was in Massachusetts, I was doing my master's degree. I was first introduced to Make Us Visible, another organization that's looking at implementing an HPI curriculum in K through 12. And it was amazing getting to work with them during my graduate program and also producing a lot of underneath the University of Massachusetts with Professor Fong. I got to do a lot of research, qualitative and quantitative, about what would it look like for elementary students, middle school students, and high school students. What would it happen if you had this curriculum? How would that change your trajectory in terms of staying in America, obtaining a degree in America, or what is that career trajectory postgraduate? And it was interesting that we found that a lot of the students we had reached out to, and this was BIPOC communities. ANHPI was a sub-ethnic group that we got to host qualitative Talanoa stories with, focus groups. And so they were like, yeah, absolutely. If we saw this, it would, one, increase motivations to stay in America. Two, also develop a better understanding of one another. And three, feel more accepted into America, which I think would be key here when we're talking about advocacy and policy. With everything that is happening in our nation for even right now, but even decades before I was even stepped into this realm, paying tribute to all of the API leaders who have been here trying to fight for representation. Absolutely has been something that I've loved getting in touch with. And then working for, fast forward a little bit to California State, working with EPIC is a nonprofit empowering Pacific Islander communities. I was an interim advocacy coordinator there, and we worked with a lot of other organizations in partnership to try and tailor, let's say, a workshop to the Pacifica lens. And for when I moved on to work for the API Legislative Caucus for California State, I got to learn from the most incredible elected officials and change makers, I'd say. One of them in education, notably Assemblymember Mike Fong, who was chair of the Higher Education Committee, and got to see his thought process, his motivations, and what it looks like to be in education. Same thing with Assemblymember Almer Suchi, who's also a professor. So there was a number of elected officials I got to learn from, and see how they want to implement change in terms of education, and something I'm really excited to continue following with them too.
Yeah. That's really, really great that you're able to do so much and work with so many great people, make us visible, all these different professors. This is really, really great. And it's great to hear that you're making such impactful change to the world. Is there anything that you think youth can do to get more involved in advocacy and possibly even helping out API advocates directly?
Yes, absolutely. So, two really, really exciting things. Our flagship programs at API Advocates, the first one is our Advocacy Coalition. So, we have a California statewide ANHPI Advocacy Coalition. We're comprised of 150 plus ANHPI identifying or ANHPI serving nonprofit organizations. And for the past, we're going into our third year now. We like to meet, gather monthly on Zoom, in person when people are around to talk about what is happening in your backyard in the state of California. Is there something that we can work on collaboratively, so that we can achieve your dream for what's happening in your district? And that's been a really, really amazing space. It's free of cost and open to all students, whether you're in high school, undergrad, or graduate, or a part of your own career as well. Another thing we like to do is like call to action every month. So it's like, hey, I have an event. I need 50 volunteers. And then the community shows up for you, which is amazing. Or, hey, we're really trying to push this policy. Can you guys show up to this committee hearing? And then our coalition will come to the front floor. So it is the coalition I'd absolutely say get involved with. We meet at 2 p.m. on the first Thursdays of every month um, to just openly share with one another what's happening, how can we help one another, are there any advocacy areas or issues that we need to get behind? And we kind of like throw it all out on the floor, which I love. And to put all of our efforts together into one, we also have an annual advocacy day. And for 2026, I'm super excited to announce that that will be on Monday, May 18th. And it is a half-day program with a press conference training, office visits, and a reception. It is welcome to everyone and all to be a part of it. Our planning meetings from now until then, we're going to be talking about issue areas that mean the most to us in our communities and try and figure out our top three bill priorities for the 2026 legislative session. It's a great opportunity to get involved with advocacy. We welcome first timers who have never been to the Capitol because there's amazing trainings by some of our partners on how do I use my voice? How do I use my voice in an office visit? What does it look like in the committee for a Me Too statement? There's lots of civic engagement workshops and tools you can learn from the coalition. So I offer that to everyone listening and tuning in, especially API Youth Rising. And then the second thing is our internship program. So our internship program is also every year in the spring. We like to place around 25 undergraduate graduate students to work in person at California State Capitol here in Sacramento. We partner with the elected officials for the state, and then you work 10 weeks in their office and you do some one-on-one training with API advocates, talk workshops across public speaking, talking points, how to make a fact sheet, what does a backgrounder look like, committee hearings 101, lots of legislative and leadership development. So yeah, would love to get the word out for those and see everyone join us.
Yeah, well, I think it's really, really great that API Advocates has this coalition as well as this internship for undergraduates and graduates. And I hope anyone in the audience applied for them or joined the coalition or show up to the event on May 18th. It will be great to have more support within the community. I'm sure API Advocates will also really love that. Um, how do you think that your education helped prepare you for your career in advocacy and leading this organization now?
Yes. I would say that my graduate program heavily influenced my career in advocacy today. Again, University of Massachusetts in Boston. I studied critical ethnic and community studies. My capstone was about AA and HPI communities, BIPOC communities, low income, historically redlined districts, um, and how they engage with civics and advocacy in today's state legislature and federal government. My mentor, advisor at the time was Dr. Cedric Woods, an amazing person to learn from. And I encourage everyone to go and reach out to Dr. Woods because I got to learn so many incredible things that I use in my day-to-day in advocacy. One of them being the idea or the theory of transdisciplinarity. So have you heard of interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary studies?
I don't think I have. If you could explain it a little more.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, oh, I'm interested in, let's say, anthropology and marine biology. I'll just go to those two because I wanted to study those in undergrad. Um, Multidisciplinary is taking more than one discipline and intertwining them two and trying to see if we can come to an outcome by using those two knowledges. Transdisciplinarity is beyond that. So looking at, let's see, I have an idea about ethnic studies. And I'm going to pull in not only education stakeholders or education realm stakeholders, but also student government. I'm also going to pull in health. I'm also going to pull in public safety. I'm also going to pull in as many perspectives as I can on this one topic. Because at the root of every issue is that it is intersectional. Um, Trying to get a holistic view of what this new idea could be. And that's the term we've used is transcendence. So if I'm pulling from key core theories from different issue areas and weaving them all into one, that gives us a broader view of what that would look like moving forward. So I got to learn transdisciplinary. It was amazing. Got to learn about deep-rooted colonialism and its effects. What does that look like for advancing our communities moving forward in America? Got to look at, let's see, racial capitalism. Lots of really good tools that we get to address in today's world. Um, Critical thinking and analysis, which I love to do with different authors, Indigenous authors and articles we got to learn from as well. But I was equipped very generously with a good toolkit that I don't think we typically see in government. Again, my degree is not political science. It's not poli-sci or public affairs. Um, but I do have a really unique lens on what it looks like to advocate using the tools from anthropology, sociology, organizational management, leadership, and so forth.
Yeah. And then lastly, I just have one more question for you. Do you have one message that you would like to share to the entire audience or to the younger generation of advocates, policymakers, legislators? Just one message for them all.
Ooh, one message. Okay, I would say this might sound a little cliche, but your voice matters. That's all, three words. Your voice matters. And if we really take a deep reflection into that, the reason why I share that across all platforms is because you are the only you. And you have a very unique lived experience and privileged to share with the world of what that is. We all may be in high school, but your high school experience is different from my high school experience. And how would we know what it takes to change to make that better if we don't communicate with one another? So use your voice, be as loud as you want to be, and don't be unapologetic about it because you deserve to use your voice here at any time and share what it means to be you today, tomorrow, and in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those three words are very, very powerful. And I hope everyone in the audience thinks about it and uses their voice to speak up for themselves. API Youth Rising is about lifting up others' voices and sharing your story. And thank you, Miss Whalen, for meeting with me and being part of this podcast. So on behalf of API Youth Rising, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David.